In the shadow of the towering Himalayas, nestled among mist-shrouded peaks, lay the ancient village of Dharampur. Here, where prayer flags fluttered in the crisp mountain air and the sound of distant temple bells echoed through narrow streets, lived a young monk named Tashi. Despite his devotion, Tashi faced an inner battle that left him feeling lost. From childhood, Tashi had been drawn to the Buddhist path, finding solace in the teachings of the Buddha and the rhythmic chanting of sutras. His days were filled with meditation, study, and service to his fellow villagers. Yet, despite his unwavering devotion, Tashi found himself locked in an inner battle that left him feeling lost and disheartened. Each night, as Tashi lay on his simple cot in the monastery, his mind would race with thoughts he knew a monk should not entertain. Visions of worldly pleasures, fleeting desires, and sometimes even anger towards his fellow monks would flood his consciousness. The more he tried to push these thoughts away, the stronger they seemed to become, like a raging river breaking through a weakening dam. One particularly difficult morning, after a night of restless sleep and troubled dreams, Tashi decided he could no longer bear this burden alone. With heavy steps and a heavier heart, he made his way to the humble abode of Master Lamo, a venerated teacher known throughout the region for his wisdom and compassion. Master Lamo's small hut sat atop a gentle hill overlooking the village. As Tashi approached, he saw the elderly monk tending to his garden, his wrinkled hands gently caressing the leaves of a struggling plant. He looked up at Tashi, his eyes twinkling with kindness and understanding.
"Ah, young Tashi, I see a storm brewing in your eyes. Come, let us talk."
Tashi bowed deeply, his voice quavering as he spoke.
"Venerable Master, I am lost. I meditate daily, recite the sutras, and strive to follow the Noble Eightfold Path. Yet my mind remains polluted with impure thoughts and desires. How can I purify my mind and find the inner peace so desperately seek?"
Master Lamo listened intently, his face a mask of compassion. When Tashi finished, he slowly rose to his feet and gestured for him to follow. They walked in silence, their feet crunching on the gravel path that wound its way down the hill and through the village. As they walked, Tashi noticed how the villagers greeted Master Lamo with deep respect, but also with genuine affection. Children ran up to offer him wildflowers, while elders sought his blessing. Through it all, the master remained serene, offering each person a moment of his undivided attention. Finally, they reached the outskirts of the village, where a small murky pond lay hidden behind a copse of ancient cedars. The water was brown and stagnant, choked with dead leaves and algae.
"Look closely at the water, Tashi. What do you see?"
Tashi peered into the muddy depths, his nose wrinkling at the unpleasant smell.
"I see only mud and decay, Master. The water is too clouded to see anything else."
The master nodded, his eyes twinkling.
"Now observe the surface of the pond."
Tashi looked again, and to his amazement, he saw a single lotus flower floating serenely atop the murky waters, its pink petals open to the sky, untouched by the mud below.
The lotus teaches us a profound lesson. It grows in the mud, yet it remains pure and beautiful. Your mind, Tashi, is like this pond. The impure thoughts are the mud, but your true nature, your Buddha nature, is like the lotus.
Tashi listened intently as the master continued.
The key to purifying your mind is not to fight against the mud, but to nurture the lotus. Focus on cultivating compassion, mindfulness, and wisdom. As these qualities grow stronger, they will naturally push the impurities aside.
"But Master, how do I nurture the lotus? I've tried to push the thoughts away, to ignore them, but they always return, stronger than before."
Master Lamo smiled gently.
"Ah, that is because you are fighting the mud, not nourishing the lotus. Let me teach you a practice of loving-kindness meditation. When an impure thought arises, acknowledge it without judgment. Don't push it away, but don't cling to it either. Simply observe it, like watching a cloud pass in the sky. Then, gently redirect your attention to thoughts of love and compassion for all beings."
He then taught Tashi a simple mantra.
Repeat this mantra whenever troubled. May all beings be happy. May all beings be free from suffering.
He instructed him to repeat this mantra whenever he felt troubled by impure thoughts.
But remember, Tashi, this is not a quick fix. Just as this lotus did not bloom overnight, the transformation of your mind will take time and patience. The path to enlightenment is a journey of many steps.
Inspired by the master's wisdom, Tashi dedicated himself to this new practice with renewed vigor. Each morning, he would visit the pond, observing the lotus and reminding himself of Master Lamo's teachings. Days turned into weeks and weeks into months. The seasons changed, painting the landscape in vibrant hues of gold, then blanketing it in pristine white before giving way to the fresh greens of spring. Gradually, Tashi began to notice a change. The impure thoughts that once consumed him began to lose their power. Like lotuses blooming in his mind, thoughts of kindness and compassion started to flourish. He found himself reacting with patience, where once he would have felt anger, responding with understanding where judgment once lived. The change didn't go unnoticed by others. His fellow monks commented on his growing serenity, and villagers began to seek him out for counsel. Through it all, Tashi continued his practice, visiting the pond daily and tending to the lotus of his mind. One serene morning, nearly a year after his first visit with Master Lamo, Tashi sat in meditation by the pond. As he opened his eyes, he gasped in wonder. The once murky water had become crystal clear, revealing a bed of vibrant lotuses beneath the surface. In that moment, Tashi realized that his mind, too, had been transformed. With tears of joy in his eyes, Tashi understood that the path to mental purification was not about eliminating all negative thoughts, but about cultivating the positive ones. By focusing on compassion and mindfulness, he had created a sanctuary of peace within himself. Overcome with gratitude, Tashi rushed to Master Lamo's hut to share his revelation. The wise teacher listened with a knowing smile, his eyes shining with pride and affection.
Master, I understand now. My mind can also be transformed.
You have learned well, Tashi. But remember, just as a garden requires constant care, so too does the mind. Continue your practice and let the wisdom you've gained be a light for others.
From that day, Tashi shared the teachings of the lotus with all who sought guidance. He taught them that even in the muddiest of minds, the lotus of enlightenment can bloom. And just as the lotus rises above the mud to bask in the sun, so too can our highest selves rise above our lower nature, reaching towards the light of wisdom and compassion. As Tashi's story spread throughout the village and beyond, it became a beloved teaching, a reminder that within each of us lies the potential for profound transformation. The muddy pond at the edge of the village became a place of pilgrimage, where seekers would come to contemplate the lotus and the timeless wisdom it represented. And so, in the small village of Dharampur, where prayer flags still flutter in the mountain breeze and temple bells continue to chime, the legacy of Tashi and the lesson of the lotus live on, a testament to the enduring power of Buddhist teachings and the indomitable human spirit.
In a small town nestled between rolling green hills, there lived a humble man named Jake. Jake wasn't famous, but everyone in the town knew him for his kindness and the wisdom he always seemed to offer, even when life got tough. Whether it was lending a hand to a neighbor or just listening when someone needed to vent, Jake was there. He wasn't rich or powerful, but he had something many others craved: inner peace. Jake had always been drawn to the teachings of Buddhism, especially the idea that life's struggles could lead to something greater. He often reflected on the Four Noble Truths, which taught that suffering is a part of life, but also that there's a way out of that suffering. Jake didn't shy away from hardship. He faced it head-on, believing that each challenge was an opportunity to grow stronger and wiser. One of the core ideas Jake held close was right view. This didn't just mean seeing things as they are, but understanding that how we choose to look at the world shapes our experience. He knew that a negative perspective would only deepen his struggles, while a balanced outlook could make life's burdens lighter. Karma was also a key part of Jake's life philosophy. He understood that his actions today would echo into tomorrow and perhaps even beyond this lifetime. Every choice he made, every word he spoke, he did with the knowledge that it would come back to him. It wasn't about being perfect, but about being mindful of the impact he had on the world around him. Speaking of mindfulness, This was something Jake practiced daily. Whether he was working in his garden or cooking dinner, he made an effort to be fully present. No rushing through tasks, no mindlessly scrolling on his phone, just being in the moment. It wasn't always easy, but the more he practiced, the more at peace he felt. It helped him notice the simple beauty in life. The smell of the earth after rain, the laughter of children in the street. But it wasn't just about mindfulness for Jake. Compassion played an enormous role in how he moved through the world. He believed deeply in the importance of empathy, always striving to understand what others were going through. If someone was hurting, Jake made it a point to help, whether by offering a meal or simply being there to listen. He knew that kindness had a way of spreading, and he wanted to be a source of that light. Over time, Jake also came to terms with life's impermanence. He learned to let go of the things that didn't really matter, possessions, old grudges, even his ego. By releasing these attachments, he found freedom in simplicity. He didn't need to chase after things to feel fulfilled. He was content with what he had. Meditation became Jake's way of grounding himself in this realization. Every morning, before the world woke up, Jake would sit in silence, focusing on his breath, letting his thoughts drift by like clouds. In these quiet moments, he found a deeper understanding of himself and the world. It wasn't always comfortable. Sometimes sitting with his thoughts meant confronting old fears or pain. But through meditation, he found a sense of inner peace that nothing else could give him. Jake wasn't blind to suffering, though. He knew that life was full of it: sickness, loss, disappointment. Instead of trying to run from these truths, he accepted them. By embracing suffering as a natural part of life, he found that it didn't control him as it once had. It was just another part of the human experience, something to learn from rather than fear. What truly set Jake apart, though, was his ability to radiate loving kindness, or metta. He wasn't just kind to those he knew or liked. He extended warmth and goodwill to everyone, even people who wronged him. It wasn't easy, but Jake believed that compassion could change the world, one act at a time. As the years went by, Jake continued to seek wisdom in all things. He didn't claim to have all the answers, but he was always open to learning. He knew that true enlightenment wasn't about knowing everything. It was about seeing the world clearly, without the fog of ignorance or illusion. Jake's guiding compass was the Eightfold Path, a simple but profound set of principles that helped him navigate life. It taught him to be ethical, mindful, and compassionate, to always strive for balance. By following this path, he found a sense of clarity and purpose that many people spend their whole lives searching for. As Jake grew older, he faced the realities of aging and death with the same calm acceptance he'd brought to everything else in his life. He didn't fear the end. Instead, he cherished the time he had left. Each day was a gift, a chance to continue growing, learning, and giving back to the world. In the twilight of his life, surrounded by friends and family, Jake's legacy wasn't one of wealth or fame, but of love, wisdom, and peace. His journey was a testament to the power of living simply, compassionately, and with mindfulness. And though he eventually passed on, his spirit lived on in the people he touched, a reminder that even in today's fast-paced world, the middle path is still a way to find true peace.
In a world filled with greed, the teachings of a venerable master offer guidance.
To live wisely among the greedy, one must first cultivate inner peace. Greed often manifests in our daily interactions, as seen in the marketplace. Observe without judgment. Understand the root of greed.
Master, how can we resist the temptation of greed?
Practice contentment, my child. Find joy in simplicity and let go of excess desires. Attachment to wealth often leads to suffering and inner turmoil. See how the pursuit of more brings neither peace nor joy, but rather anxiety.
But how do we interact with those consumed by greed?
Respond with compassion, for their greed stems from an inner feeling of lack. Like ripples in water, our actions influence others in unseen ways. Greed can lead to conflict and division, tearing communities apart. When faced with greed, respond with generosity and kindness, for these are powerful disruptors of discord. Remember, all beings seek happiness, but often choose misguided paths in their pursuit. Small acts of kindness can counteract the effects of greed, sowing seeds of harmony. Compassion is indeed the antidote to greed, creating a cycle of giving and receiving. Some realize the emptiness of material wealth and the potential for joy in giving. True wealth lies in a generous heart and a peaceful mind, undisturbed by material gain.
But Master, won't the greedy take advantage of our kindness?
Be wise in your compassion, my child. Set healthy boundaries to protect yourself and others. At times, we must protect ourselves and others from harmful actions driven by greed. Compassionate wisdom has the power to transform even the most hardened hearts. Practice mindfulness. Be conscious of your desires and motivations, for they shape your journey. Through meditation, we cultivate inner peace and contentment, creating a buffer against greed. A calm mind is less susceptible to the influence of greed, like a lotus in muddy waters. Acts of generosity counter the effects of greed and provide nourishment for the soul. Giving freely brings joy to both the giver and the receiver, knitting communities together. Cooperation and shared purpose dissolve the barriers of individual greed. Witness how working together for the common good creates harmony and balance.
I see now. Through our actions, we can indeed create a more generous and connected world.
Remember, my child, all things are impermanent, including wealth and possessions. Attachment to impermanent things is a source of suffering, clouding true purpose. Like these leaves, our lives and possessions are temporary, a truth we must embrace.
So we should focus on what truly matters, living with intent and appreciation.
Cultivate wisdom, compassion, and inner peace, for these are timeless treasures. In a world of differences, seek common ground in our shared humanity and collective well-being.
I understand now. We can create change through our actions, igniting a spirit of unity.
Remember, your peace and contentment can inspire others, setting a path for them to follow. Live with compassion, wisdom, and mindfulness, and you will thrive among all people.
Thank you, Master. I will carry these teachings in my heart, spreading their light.
Go forth and spread peace in a world that greatly needs it, healer of souls.
Armored with wisdom and love, we learn to navigate a world of greed with grace and compassion, stitching the fabric of a brighter future with every thoughtful deed. Amidst the constant noise of New York City, Sarah felt like she was drowning. Car horns blared, smartphones pinged, and the endless chatter of millions created a roar that seemed to reach deep into her soul. As a successful executive, she'd always thrived on the city's energy, but recently, everything felt different. Overwhelmed and disconnected, she found herself searching for something she couldn't quite put into words. One especially chaotic day, Sarah came across a small, hidden bookshop in a quiet corner of the city. Her eyes were drawn to an old, weathered book titled The Teachings of Buddha. As she casually flipped through its pages, a single phrase jumped out at her. Silence is the language of the soul. Intrigued, Sarah began delving into the Buddhist concept of silence. She discovered the story of Siddhartha Gautama's journey to enlightenment and how he sat in deep stillness beneath the Bodhi tree, allowing the turmoil in his mind to calm. As the chaos subsided, he was able to perceive the true nature of reality. This idea captivated Sarah, offering her a glimpse of something she'd been unknowingly seeking. Inspired, Sarah decided to attend a weekend retreat at the Insight Meditation Society, where she experienced true silence for the first time. Initially, the absence of noise felt unsettling, even uncomfortable, as she was used to the constant hum of the city. But as the hours went by, subtle changes began to unfold. The nonstop chatter in her mind gradually slowed, and she became attuned to sensations she'd never paid attention to before. The gentle rise and fall of her breath, the warmth of sunlight on her skin, and the intricate details of a single leaf. As Sarah deepened her practice, she realized that silence was more than just the absence of sound. It was a profound state of being. In these quiet moments, she could observe her thoughts and emotions without becoming entangled in them. She started to grasp the Buddhist concept of non-attachment, understanding that much of her stress and anxiety came from clinging to ideas, expectations, and desires. By letting go, she found a new sense of peace and clarity. When Sarah returned to her busy life in the city, she noticed she had changed. She began to create moments of silence in her day, a few minutes of morning meditation, a quiet walk in the park during lunch, or turning off her phone for an hour each evening. These small pockets of stillness became her islands of peace amidst the chaos, helping her stay grounded in her otherwise hectic world. As Sarah continued exploring Buddhist teachings, she came across a growing body of scientific research supporting the benefits of silence and meditation. Neuroscientists had found that regular periods of silence could improve cognitive function, reduce stress, and even stimulate the growth of new brain cells. It struck her that the ancient wisdom of Buddha was now being validated by modern science, further deepening her commitment to incorporating silence into her daily life. Over time, Sarah's relationship with silence grew deeper. She no longer saw it as an escape from the world, but as a means to engage with it more fully. In these quiet moments of reflection, she gained clarity and insights that had previously been drowned out by the noise of her daily life. She found herself becoming more patient, compassionate, and attuned to the needs of those around her. Silence, rather than isolating her, had opened a path to deeper connection and understanding. One day, while sitting in a bustling coffee shop, Sarah closed her eyes for a moment and took a deep breath. The once overwhelming sounds of the city now flowed around her like a river. She could choose to engage with them or simply let them pass. In that moment, she truly understood Buddha's words. Peace comes from within. Do not seek it without. The external noise no longer disturbed her inner calm, and she realized peace was something she could carry with her, no matter where she was. Sarah opened her eyes, a small smile playing on her lips. The world around her was as noisy as ever, but she now carried a sanctuary of silence within, a quiet center that helped her navigate the chaos with grace and calm. As she gathered her things to leave, she noticed a young woman at a nearby table, her face marked by stress and fatigue. Feeling a surge of compassion, Sarah left her copy of the Teachings of Buddha on the table and walked out, hoping it might offer the same solace and insight that had transformed her own life. As the door closed behind her, Sarah stepped into the bustling street, carrying her inner silence like a precious gift. She understood that her journey had only just begun, but she felt grateful for the profound teachings that had offered her a new way to live in this noisy world. She had discovered that peace wasn't found in the absence of sound, but in the presence of mindful awareness. With this newfound perspective, she faced the world with a deeper sense of calm and purpose.
In the heart of a tranquil valley nestled between towering mountains, there lived a wise Buddhist monk named Master Koji. He was known far and wide for his profound teachings and the serene presence that surrounded him. Many seekers of truth and wisdom would make the arduous journey to seek his guidance. One day, a troubled young man named Sora arrived at the monastery where Master Koji resided. Sora's mind was clouded with doubts and fears, and he sought solace and answers to the questions that burdened his soul. Master Koji welcomed Sora with a gentle smile and invited him to sit in the quiet garden beside a flowing stream. For days, Sora sat in silence, observing the world around him and listening to the sounds of nature. Master Koji would often join him, sharing moments of stillness as they watched the sun rise and set, the birds sing, and the leaves rustle in the wind. Despite the lack of words exchanged, Sora felt a profound sense of peace washing over him. One evening, as they sat under the canopy of stars, Sora finally broke the silence and asked,
Master Koji, why do we spend so much time in silence? How can it guide us towards our life's purpose?
Master Koji smiled knowingly and replied,
Silence is not the absence of noise, but the presence of inner stillness. In the quietude of our minds, we can hear the whispers of our true selves and connect with the wisdom that lies within.
Master Koji shared a parable illustrating the power of silence in unveiling the path to enlightenment. He spoke of a great storm that ravaged a peaceful village, causing chaos and destruction. The villagers cried out in fear and desperation, but amidst the clamor, there was one man who remained calm and silent. While everyone else sought shelter and protection, this man stood rooted to the ground, his eyes fixed on the horizon. As the storm raged on, the skies cleared and the sun shone once more, revealing a rainbow stretching across the heavens. The villagers marveled at the sight, wondering at the man's composure in the face of adversity. When they asked him how he remained so serene, he replied, "In the eye of the storm, I found peace and silence. Amidst chaos and turmoil, it was the stillness within me that guided me towards clarity and purpose." Master Koji paused, allowing the wisdom of the parable to sink in before continuing his teachings about embracing silence.
Just as the man in the story found solace in silence during the storm, so too can we navigate the challenges of life with grace and wisdom. By embracing the power of silence, we can tune into our inner voice and align ourselves with our true calling.
Sora listened intently, feeling a sense of clarity and purpose dawning within him. He realized that in the quiet moments of reflection and introspection, he could uncover his deepest desires and aspirations. Master Koji's teachings had opened his eyes to the profound truth that silence was not emptiness, but a reservoir of strength and guidance. As the days passed, Sora continued to meditate and reflect in the peaceful surroundings of the monastery. With each moment of silence, he felt his fears and doubts melting away, replaced by a deep sense of peace and understanding. Master Koji watched with pride as Sora's spirit blossomed, guided by the wisdom of silence towards a life filled with purpose and fulfillment. And so, the lesson of the power of silence echoed through the valley, touching the hearts of all who sought enlightenment and peace. Master Koji's teachings lived on in the hearts of his disciples, reminding them that in the stillness of their souls, they could find the strength to face life's challenges and embrace their true path with courage and grace. In the heart of ancient India, a man named Siddhartha Gautama, later known as the Buddha, embarked on a journey that would forever change the way we understand life. After years of deep meditation and contemplation, he uncovered a profound truth, one that would guide countless people toward peace and understanding. These are the Four Noble Truths, the foundation of Buddhist teachings. The first noble truth: life contains suffering, or as the Buddha called it, dukkha. This suffering isn't just the physical pain we might experience, but the emotional turmoil, the sense of dissatisfaction, and the endless search for happiness that often seems just out of reach. We all go through moments like these. Loss of loved ones, unfulfilled desires, the stresses of daily life. This is the reality of existence. No matter who we are, suffering is a part of life. The second noble truth: the cause of suffering is craving or attachment. We long for things, be it wealth, power, love, or recognition, and it's this craving that keeps us in a constant state of dissatisfaction. We cling to the idea that if we just have a little more, we'll finally be happy. But the truth is, this attachment only deepens our suffering. The third noble truth offers hope. There is an end to suffering. The Buddha taught that by letting go of our attachments and desires, we can free ourselves from this cycle of suffering. This state of peace and liberation is known as nirvana, a place where suffering no longer has a hold on us. When we let go, we open the door to tranquility, to the peace that comes from within, not from the world around us. The fourth noble truth tells us how to achieve this peace. There is a path to end suffering. This path is known as the Noble Eightfold Path, a guide to living with mindfulness, compassion, and wisdom. The first spoke is right view, which is seeing the world through the lens of the Four Noble Truths. It means understanding that suffering is real, but so is the way to overcome it. Right intention follows, cultivating thoughts of kindness, compassion, and renunciation. This is the foundation of ethical living. Right speech is the practice of speaking truthfully and avoiding harmful words. The things we say carry power, power to heal or to harm. Right action reminds us to act ethically and with compassion toward all beings. Every choice we make can either add to the world's suffering or reduce it. Right livelihood is about earning a living in a way that does not harm others. It calls for integrity in our work and respect for the well-being of all life. Right effort encourages us to cultivate positive states of mind, like joy, love, and mindfulness, while letting go of anger, fear, and jealousy. Right mindfulness means being fully present. It's the practice of observing our thoughts, feelings, and actions without judgment. Right concentration involves developing focus and clarity of mind. Through meditation and mindfulness, we train our minds to remain centered. These teachings of the Buddha, these Four Noble Truths, and the Noble Eightfold Path offer us a roadmap to understanding the nature of suffering and how to transcend it. No matter who we are or where we come from, these truths resonate deeply within all of us. They provide a guide, not just for Buddhists, but for anyone seeking peace and understanding in life. By recognizing our attachments and slowly learning to release them, we begin our journey toward true inner peace. It's not always easy, but the path is clear, and the rewards are immense. The Four Noble Truths remind us that while suffering is a part of life, there is always hope for transformation. Through mindfulness, compassion, and a deep understanding of our reality, we can move toward enlightenment, toward a life free from suffering, filled with peace.
In the heart of a bustling city, nestled between towering skyscrapers and honking traffic, stood an oasis of tranquility, the Lotus Mind Meditation Center. Its unassuming facade belied the profound transformations that occurred within its walls. On this particular autumn morning, as golden leaves danced in the crisp air, a new seeker of peace was about to cross its threshold. Sarah, a woman in her mid-30s, hesitated at the entrance. Her once vibrant eyes now dulled by grief, she clutched her phone tightly, as if it were a lifeline to a world she was no longer sure existed. With a deep breath, she pushed open the door, the soft chime of bells announcing her arrival. The reception area was bathed in warm, natural light. A gentle voice broke the silence. "Welcome to Lotus Mind. I'm Brother Kai. How may I assist you today?" Sarah looked up to see an elderly monk, his weathered face etched with lines of wisdom and compassion. His eyes, twinkling with kindness, seemed to see right through her carefully constructed facade. I'm not sure why I'm here," Sarah stammered, her voice barely above a whisper. "My therapist suggested I try meditation, but I don't know if it can help someone like me." Brother Kai smiled gently. "Why don't we take a walk in our garden? Sometimes, the flowers have more wisdom than all the books in the world." As they strolled along the winding path, surrounded by carefully tended plants and the soothing sound of a small fountain, Sarah found herself opening up. "6 months ago, I lost my sister to cancer. We were twins. It feels like half of me is gone. I can't sleep, can't focus at work. I feel empty." The monk listened intently, his silence an invitation for Sarah to continue. As they reached a stone bench, he gestured for her to sit. "Sarah," he began, his voice soft yet filled with an underlying strength, "let me share a story with you. Once, there was a young potter who crafted the most beautiful vases in all the land. One day, his favorite vase, a masterpiece he had spent months creating, slipped from his hands and shattered." Sarah's eyes widened, recognizing the metaphor in the monk's tale. "The potter was devastated," Brother Kai continued. "He gathered the broken pieces, determined to recreate his lost treasure. But no matter how hard he tried, the vase was never the same. In his frustration, he was ready to give up his craft entirely." "What did he do?" Sarah asked, leaning in despite herself. "An old master came to him and said, 'Instead of trying to recreate what was lost, why not use these broken pieces to create something new?' The potter was skeptical but decided to try. He took the shards and, using gold to join them, created a new vase. It was different from the original, bearing the scars of its breaking, but it was uniquely beautiful in its own right." Brother Kai turned to Sarah, his eyes filled with understanding. "Your grief, Sarah, is like those broken pieces. It may feel like your life is shattered, but within this pain lies the potential for transformation. You cannot bring your sister back, just as the potter couldn't recreate his original vase. But you can honor her memory by creating a new life, one that incorporates your loss and your love."
In the bustling city of Yajaraji, where the pace of life seemed to quicken with each passing day, there lived a young woman named Aiko. Aiko was a vibrant soul, always ready to lend a helping hand or a listening ear to those in need. However, despite her outward cheerfulness, Aiko carried a heavy burden within her heart, a burden of past grievances and negative emotions that weighed her down like a chain. One day, as Aiko sat by the serene river that flowed through the heart of Yojiraji, she caught sight of an elderly man meditating by the water's edge. Intrigued, she approached him and asked, "Sir, what brings you here to meditate by the river?" The elderly man opened his eyes and gazed at Aiko with a serene smile. "I come here to practice the art of letting go," he replied softly. Letting go is a vital concept for achieving inner peace. It involves releasing negative emotions and past experiences that contribute to stress. Aiko's curiosity was piqued, and she sat down beside the old man, eager to learn more about this mysterious art. As the sun began to set, casting a golden glow over the rippling water, the man spoke of the importance of releasing attachments and embracing impermanence. Clinging to past grievances can be emotionally draining, the man explained. It saps our energy and joy, preventing us from fully experiencing the present moment. To achieve emotional liberation and growth, we must understand what we can and cannot control. Aiko listened intently, feeling a sense of clarity wash over her like a gentle breeze. As the elderly man shared practical tips and insights on letting go, Aiko realized the profound impact it could have on her well-being. Letting go means acknowledging the past while choosing to move forward, the man continued. It's like releasing a hot coal, the relief is immediate. It requires conscious effort and commitment for lasting peace. Inspired by the man's words, Aiko began to incorporate the practice of letting go into her daily life. She focused on the present moment, embraced deep breathing techniques, and started journaling her daily gratitudes. With each passing day, she felt a sense of lightness and freedom wash over her, like a burden lifting from her shoulders. As weeks turned into months, Aiko noticed a profound transformation within herself. By letting go of past grievances and embracing impermanence, she found a deeper appreciation for the moments she shared with others and the beauty of the world around her. One crisp autumn morning, Aiko returned to the riverbank, where she had first met the elderly man. The river shimmered in the soft morning light, reflecting the vibrant colors of the changing leaves. As she closed her eyes and took a deep breath, Aiko felt a sense of peace and gratitude fill her heart. In that moment, Aiko understood the true essence of letting go. It was not about forgetting the past, but about releasing its hold on her present. With a smile on her face and a lightness in her step, Aiko walked away from the riverbank, ready to embrace each new day with a heart full of peace and a soul free of burdens. And so, the art of letting go became a guiding principle in Aiko's life, leading her on a journey toward inner peace and happiness. As the sun set behind the horizon, casting a warm glow over the city of Yojiraji, Aiko knew that she was not alone in her struggles. Many shared similar experiences, and together, they could find solace in the practice of letting go.
In the 5th century BCE, an elderly Siddhartha Gautama, known as the Buddha, arrives in Kushinagar with a group of monks. His cousin and attendant, Ananda, helps him settle in a grove of sala trees. The Buddha, visibly weakened by illness, instructs Ananda to prepare a resting place between two trees. Word spreads quickly of the Buddha's arrival and declining health. Monks and lay followers from nearby areas begin to converge on Kushinagar. Among them are longtime disciples, newer converts, and curious locals, all eager to see the renowned teacher one last time. Despite his weakness, the Buddha addresses the assembled crowd. He emphasizes the impermanence of all things and the importance of diligent practice. His words,
"All compounded things are subject to decay. Strive on with diligence."
The Buddha, foreseeing questions about leadership after his passing, declares that he will appoint no individual successor. Instead, he instructs the monks to take the teachings, dharma, and monastic rules, vinaya, as their guide, setting the stage for a more democratic approach to spiritual authority. A local smith named Junda offers a meal to the Buddha and his monks. Some accounts suggest this meal may have exacerbated the Buddha's illness. Despite his discomfort, the Buddha shows gratitude and uses the occasion to impart further teachings. As night falls, the Buddha's condition worsens. He enters into progressively deeper states of meditation. The assembled monks watch in reverent silence, understanding they are witnessing the final moments of their teacher's extraordinary life. In the early hours of the morning, the Buddha reaches parinirvana, the final release from the cycle of rebirth. The writings depict a profound stillness settling over the grove, as if nature itself acknowledges the passing of the enlightened one. Ananda, who has been the Buddha's closest attendant for decades, is overcome with grief. He weeps openly, lamenting the loss of his cousin, teacher, and friend. Other monks, though also saddened, remind Ananda of the Buddha's teachings on impermanence. In the days following the Buddha's death, his body is prepared according to the customs for a great spiritual teacher and former royal. A funeral pyre is constructed, and the cremation is carried out with great ceremony. Afterwards, the Buddha's remains are divided into portions for enshrinement in stupas across northern India. Within months of the Buddha's passing, his senior disciples convene what becomes known as the First Buddhist Council. Led by the monk Mahakassapa, they begin the crucial task of compiling and standardizing the Buddha's teachings. Ananda, renowned for his prodigious memory, plays a key role in reciting the Buddha's discourses, laying the foundation for the preservation and spread of Buddhism in the centuries to come.
In the bustling city of Luoyang, during the height of the Tang Dynasty, there lived a young woman named Li Mei. Li Mei was known throughout the town for her sharp wit and cunning ambition. She was a trusted advisor in the court of a wealthy merchant lord, using her intelligence to navigate power. However, her rise had not been without sacrifices. She manipulated others to secure her position. She had undermined rivals, spread rumors, and manipulated others to secure her position. One day, the Lord tasked her with negotiating a trade agreement with a powerful foreign delegation, an alliance that would ensure his continued prosperity and Li Mei's place at his side. She saw this as her chance to elevate herself further in the court, no matter the cost. Without hesitation, she deceived her colleagues, took credit for their work, and discreetly sabotaged her rivals, including a fellow advisor named Zhang Wei, whose wisdom and loyalty she saw as a threat. But Zhang Wei, a man of honor, had quietly observed Li Mei's actions over the years. Instead of confronting her, he sought guidance from a Buddhist monk, who reminded him of the karmic law of cause and effect. Armed with this wisdom, Zhang Wei chose a path of nonviolence and subtlety. He exposed Li Mei's deceptions to the merchant lord, not with anger, but with the truth, believing that her actions would ultimately bring about their own consequences. As word of her deceit spread, Li Mei's carefully built status began to crumble. The merchant lord, a man who valued loyalty above all, called for an inquiry into her conduct. She found herself on the verge of losing everything: her title, her influence, and her position in the court. Filled with regret, she could not help but reflect on the years she had spent manipulating others for her gain. In her despair, Li Mei sought out an elder sage named Master Shen for guidance, renowned for his understanding of karma and the teachings of the Buddha. She traveled to the serene mountain temple where he resided, far from the noise of the city. There, in the quiet sanctuary of the court, Li Mei poured out her heart, confessing the weight of her misdeeds and seeking guidance. Master Shen listened with patience and compassion.
Karma isn't about punishment. It's the natural result of your actions. The seeds you sow, whether good or bad, will eventually bear fruit. However, the future isn't fixed. By planting seeds of kindness and wisdom, you can change what you'll reap.
Taking his words to heart, Li Mei dedicated herself to a path of redemption. She returned to the city with a new resolve, not to reclaim her former glory, but to make amends. She offered sincere apologies to those she had wronged, including Zhang Wei, who accepted her apology with grace. She then devoted her talents to helping the poor and needy, using her skills in diplomacy to negotiate fairer trade agreements that benefited the people of the city. As she practiced humility and compassion, Li Mei's life began to change. Though she no longer sought power or recognition, she gained the respect of those around her in a deeper way. Opportunities for meaningful work presented themselves naturally, and she found peace in living a life guided by the principles of the Dharma. In time, Li Mei understood the deeper meaning of karma, not as fate, but as a reflection of the choices we make and the energy we put into the world. By aligning her actions with wisdom and compassion, she cultivated positive karma, bringing harmony not only to her own life, but also to the lives of others. Her story became a lesson throughout Luoyang, a reminder that our actions ripple outwards, and that by living with integrity and kindness, we can transform both our present and our future.
Sarah, a young girl with pigtails, sits at her desk in a classroom, tapping her pencil nervously on the math test in front of her. She stared at her math test, her mind buzzing with uncertainty. The choice was right in front of her. She glances at her classmate's paper, her eyes darting back to her own blank spaces.
Just one little peek, no one would know.
The teacher, Mrs. Johnson, a kind woman with soft eyes, strolls between the desks, her voice calm but firm.
Remember, class, true success comes from honesty.
Sarah's hand hovers over her paper, trembling slightly.
But what if I fail?
She takes a deep breath, tightening her grip on the pencil. Slowly, she turns her focus back to her own work. With determination, Sarah chose to trust herself. No shortcuts, no looking over shoulders. Days later, Mrs. Johnson hands back the graded tests. Sarah's heart races as her name is called.
Sarah, can I see you after class?
Sarah swallows hard and nods, anxiety tightening her chest.
Did I do something wrong, Mrs. Johnson?
Mrs. Johnson smiles warmly, placing the test down.
I could see you were struggling, but you didn't give in to temptation. That takes strength, Sarah. I'm proud of you.
You knew I almost cheated?
Mrs. Johnson nods, her hand resting gently on Sarah's shoulder.
Your integrity is more important than any grade. Never forget that.
As Sarah made her way home, her thoughts drifted back to the test and to what her teacher had said about honesty. Sarah enters her house to find her mom pacing, looking stressed.
Sarah, have you seen Grandma's necklace? I can't find it anywhere.
Sarah's stomach drops. She remembers earlier when she'd been playing with the necklace.
Oh no, I left it in my room.
She hesitates, guilt creeping in, but then she straightens up, takes a deep breath.
Mom, I'm so sorry. I was playing with it. It's in my room.
Her mom stops, looking first relieved, then stern.
Thank you for telling me, sweetie, but you know you shouldn't take it without asking.
I know I won't do it again. I promise.
I'm proud of you for telling the truth.
As Sarah grew, life threw more challenges her way, each testing her sense of right and wrong. Sarah finds a wallet on the street, stuffed with cash.
I could really use this money.
But she turns it in to a police officer, her hands shaking slightly. And yet, every time Sarah chose honesty, even when it was the harder path. In college, Sarah is working on a group project. She looks up from her laptop.
I think we should cite this source in our presentation.
Her classmates groan, one rolling their eyes.
No one's going to care, Sarah. It'll make our project look better if we don't.
It's not right. We need to be honest about our work.
Their honest work earned them respect and a good grade. Sarah's commitment to honesty shaped her character. Sarah, now older, sits in a job interview feeling confident.
What would you say is your greatest strength?
My integrity. I believe honesty isn't just a quality, it's a way of life.
Later, Sarah starts her new job. One day, she notices an accounting error that could benefit the company.
This would make us more money, but it's not right.
She approaches her boss's office.
I found a mistake in the books. It needs to be corrected, even if it costs us.
Your honesty is commendable, Sarah. Thank you for bringing this to my attention. We need more people like you around here.
Sarah, now in her later years, volunteers at a youth center, talking to a group of kids.
Remember, kids, honesty isn't always easy, but it's always worth it.
A young child raises their hand hesitantly.
But what if telling the truth gets you in trouble?
Sometimes it will, but facing the truth builds trust, and trust is something you can't replace.
Sarah's life became a testament to the power of integrity. Every step, every choice, shaped her into the person she was meant to be. Sarah, now older, sits by a window watching her grandchildren play. They gather around her, wide-eyed and eager.
Grandma, can you tell us a story?
Let me tell you about the most important lesson I ever learned, the power of honesty.
As the sun sets, Sarah's grandchildren listen closely, the next generation, ready to carry forward her legacy.
A life of honesty. It wasn't always easy, but it was always right.
In the end, Sarah's greatest achievement was the trust and respect she had earned. For in a world of challenges, Sarah proved that honesty truly is the best policy.
Anger, a powerful and often overwhelming emotion, has the potential to cloud our judgment, harm our relationships, and disturb our inner peace. In the teachings of Buddhism, anger is seen as a destructive force that can lead to suffering and hinder our spiritual growth. By embracing Buddhist wisdom, we can transform our relationship with anger and cultivate a sense of calm and compassion in our lives. At the core of Buddhist teachings is the concept of mindfulness, the practice of being fully present and aware of our thoughts, feelings, and actions. When we are mindful of our anger, we can observe it without being consumed by it. Instead of reacting impulsively, we can take a step back and respond with clarity and compassion. This shift in perspective can help us break free from the cycle of anger and find peace within ourselves. One of the key teachings in Buddhism is the understanding of impermanence, the notion that all things, including our emotions, are transient and ever-changing. When we recognize the impermanent nature of anger, we can release our attachment to it and let it pass without holding on to grudges or resentment. This acceptance of impermanence allows us to cultivate a sense of equanimity and resilience in the face of anger-provoking situations. Another fundamental teaching in Buddhism is the practice of loving kindness and compassion towards ourselves and others. When we approach anger with a heart full of compassion, we can see beyond the surface level of the emotion and understand the underlying causes of our anger. By cultivating a sense of empathy and understanding, we can transform our anger into a source of insight and growth rather than a destructive force. In the Buddhist tradition, there are specific practices and teachings that can help us work with anger in a skillful way. One such practice is the cultivation of patience and tolerance in the face of adversity. By developing patience, we can learn to respond to challenging situations with a calm and centered mind rather than reacting impulsively out of anger. Another practice that can help us transform our relationship with anger is the practice of forgiveness. In Buddhism, forgiveness is seen as a powerful tool for releasing ourselves from the grip of anger and resentment. By letting go of past grievances and freeing ourselves from the burden of anger, we can cultivate a sense of peace and liberation within ourselves. Furthermore, the practice of mindfulness meditation can be a powerful tool for working with anger. By bringing our attention to the present moment and observing our thoughts and emotions without judgment, we can develop a greater awareness of our anger triggers and patterns. Through regular meditation practice, we can cultivate inner peace and equanimity, which can help us navigate the turbulent waters of anger with grace and wisdom. In conclusion, by embracing Buddhist wisdom and practices, we can transform our relationship with anger and cultivate a sense of peace, compassion, and inner freedom. Through mindfulness, acceptance of impermanence, loving kindness, patience, forgiveness, and meditation, we can work with anger in a skillful and compassionate way. By integrating these teachings into our daily lives, we can navigate the challenges of anger with grace and wisdom, and ultimately find a sense of lasting peace and serenity within ourselves.
In the heart of the fast-paced city of Metro Heights, a young woman named Emma found herself in a familiar struggle: procrastination. No matter how much she wanted to stay ahead, the looming deadlines seemed to catch up with her. Each time she delayed a task, stress and anxiety piled up. One afternoon, she sought a brief escape in a cozy coffee shop that doubled as a bookstore. She stumbled upon a book titled Mindful Living: Breaking Bad Habits Through Buddhist Teachings. Curiosity piqued, Emma bought it and started reading that very night. As she flipped through the pages, Emma was drawn into the teachings of mindfulness. The concept of being fully present, aware of her thoughts and actions, resonated deeply. She realized that by practicing mindfulness, she could recognize the moment procrastination began to creep in and take intentional steps to prevent it. Another key teaching that struck her was impermanence, the idea that everything, including habits, constantly changes. This was a revelation for Emma. She had always thought of procrastination as a permanent part of her personality. But now, with this new understanding, she saw it as something she could change with effort and persistence. Motivated by these insights, Emma committed to a journey of self-discovery. She began meditating each morning, grounding herself before diving into her work. Through these mindful practices, she uncovered the root causes of her procrastination, fear of failing, perfectionism, and self-doubt. The book emphasized self-compassion, a concept Emma had neglected in her constant self-criticism. Slowly, she started treating herself with the kindness she'd often reserved for others. She allowed herself to make mistakes, understanding that growth came from those moments. It wasn't about immediate perfection, but about progress and patience. As Emma applied these teachings, a shift began. She became proactive with her tasks, setting small, achievable goals each day. Rather than being overwhelmed by the bigger picture, she focused on the moment. With each small win, she celebrated, feeling a sense of empowerment. Over time, procrastination loosened its grip, replaced by a newfound sense of control. With her evolving mindset, Emma embraced the impermanence of life and learned that change is not to be feared, but embraced. Her daily meditation practice deepened, and the calm it brought her allowed for greater focus and creativity in her work. Tasks that once seemed daunting now felt manageable, and her anxiety began to fade. Emma's transformation didn't stop at her personal achievements. The teachings on interconnectedness reminded her that the benefits of mindfulness weren't just for her. She found herself more compassionate toward others, volunteering at a local shelter and offering a listening ear to those who needed it. Her empathy deepened, making her relationships stronger and more meaningful. Emma continued to discover joy in life's simple moments, the warmth of her morning coffee, the sound of rain tapping against her window, the stillness of early dawn. These moments, once overlooked, became anchors in her day, keeping her grounded amidst the chaos of modern life. With each step on her journey, Emma saw that happiness wasn't about chasing external goals, but cultivating peace within. She learned to navigate life's challenges with grace, trusting that with mindfulness, compassion, and the wisdom of Buddhist teachings, she could overcome anything. Her story became a testament to the power of inner transformation in a world that rarely slows down. In the bustling streets of Metro Heights, Emma now walked with a calm sense of purpose. She knew that no matter the struggles ahead, she had the tools to face them. Procrastination no longer defined her. Instead, she embraced life with mindfulness, clarity, and a heart open to growth. And as she continued her journey, Emma's story stood as a reminder that change is possible, even in the busiest of times, and that peace and fulfillment are within reach when we look inward for the answers.
Once, a young disciple approached his Zen master with a troubled mind. He complained about his inability to control his emotions, particularly his anger and anxiety. The master listened attentively and then offered the disciple a cup of tea. As he poured the tea, the master deliberately filled the cup to the brim, causing it to overflow.
"Master, the cup is already full. It cannot hold any more tea."
Just like this cup, your mind is overflowing with emotions. To control your emotions, you must first empty your mind of all preconceptions and attachments.
The disciple pondered over the master's words and realized the profound lesson he was imparting. The Zen story highlights the importance of letting go of excessive emotional baggage to attain emotional balance. Here are some key practices inspired by this story that can help you control your emotions and lead a more peaceful life. 1. Cultivate mindfulness. Mindfulness is the foundation of emotional regulation in Zen practice. By being fully present in the moment and observing your thoughts and emotions without judgment, you can develop awareness of your internal state. Practice mindfulness through meditation, deep breathing exercises, or simply by paying attention to your surroundings. 2. Practice self-reflection. Take time to reflect on your emotions and their underlying causes. Ask yourself why you are feeling a certain way and whether your emotions are serving you positively or negatively. Self-reflection helps you gain insight into your emotional patterns and empowers you to make conscious choices in how you respond to them. 3. Embrace impermanence. Just as the tea overflowed from the cup, emotions are transient and fleeting. Recognize that your emotional state is ever-changing and impermanent. By acknowledging the impermanence of emotions, you can prevent yourself from becoming overly attached to them and maintain a sense of equanimity. 4. Practice non-attachment. Attachment to emotions can lead to suffering and inner turmoil. Learn to let go of attachments to both positive and negative emotions, allowing them to arise and pass without clinging to them. Cultivate a sense of detachment by observing your emotions with a sense of detachment, realizing that they do not define your true essence. 5. Develop compassion. Compassion towards yourself and others is essential for emotional regulation. Treat yourself with kindness and understanding when you experience challenging emotions, and extend the same compassion to those around you. By cultivating compassion, you create a supportive and nurturing environment for emotional healing and growth. The Zen story of the overflowing cup reminds us to control emotions through mindfulness and non-attachment. By practicing Zen, you can find emotional balance, inner peace, and self-awareness. Let go of excess emotions to make room for serenity and clarity.